With the advent of the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo has been on a kick lately of breathing new life into their classic IPs. Zelda is now open world, Pokemon is now open world, Kirby is now 3D, Metroid is now a franchise people actually buy. But despite this rejuvenation throughout Nintendo's catalog, one important part of their history is still left in dire need of renovation. 2D Mario. Now 2D Mario is in an odd position. Some might say Mario has had a rocky history ever since it first went back into 2D. Between the negative stigma towards the new Super Mario Bros. Games and Mario Maker allowing anyone to just make their own game in the style of previous Mario games, 2D Mario needs a new direction, a fresh take. But what if I were to tell you that a fresh take for 2D Mario already exists? Well, to see this, we needed to travel back to 1992 to the release of Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. Coinciding with the release of Nintendo's first handheld system came the release of Mario's first handheld adventure. Super Mario Land was a modest portable debut for the Mario series that was both what fans expected and what they didn't. The game had a much different feel compared to the Mario games out at the time, mostly due to the lack of Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto's involvement. The game was developed by Nintendo R&D 1, the same team behind the Game Boy, with Satoru Okada as director. Because of this, the classic fairy tale style of previous Mario games was replaced with a more swashbuckling adventure style with worlds based off ancient civilizations and even certain levels where Mario pilots a submarine and an airplane. The game was even the debut of characters like Daisy and everyone's favorite Tatanga. Despite its short length and primitive graphics, it proved to be a solid start to the concept of a Mario game without Miyamoto. Now, if only they made a sequel. Oh wait, they did! Super Mario Land 2's 6 Golden Coins arrived on the scene in late 1992. Much like the original, Land 2 was developed by R&D 1, but this time Hiroshi Kayotake was director. While he did go on to direct some smaller titles later on, he's mostly known for his graphic design on Nintendo games. Most notably, he created the design of Samus from Metroid. He also had a hand in creating another famous Nintendo character. During development, Kayotake wanted the antagonist of Land 2 to be the antithesis to Mario. This idea later became Wario, who makes his debut in this game. I've always had a soft spot for Super Mario Land 2, but much like a lot of other Game Boy games that aren't Tetris, Link's Awakening, DK94, or Pokemon, it falls under the radar. You might as well call it Bruno with how little people talk about it. Sure, it may not be Super Mario 64, but there's still quite a few things within 6 Golden Coins that are worth discussing. You're watching the LionDog Show, and I'm going over what makes Super Mario Land 2 such a great 2D Mario game. Like most games from the early 90s, you need to read the instruction manual to get the story. After the events of Super Mario Land, Mario returns to discover that Wario has taken over Mario's kingdom that apparently exists, I guess, and Mario must retrieve the 6 Golden Coins to overthrow Wario and reclaim his kingdom. It's nothing you dissect in a video essay, but it's a fine alternative to the usual Mario storyline. After selecting a file, you enter the first level of the game. The gameplay is the standard Mario affair. You traverse the levels to the goal at the end while avoiding enemies and using wacky power-ups. The controls are standard as well, with A for jump and B for running or your fireball power-up. Speaking of which, this game features 3 power-ups. The Fireballs return after being replaced with the Super Balls in Mario Land 1, the Invincibility Star also returns no Can-Can this time, and lastly, making its debut in Farewell, the Bunny Suit which allows Mario to glide through the air. Same power, different persona. If you ring the bell at the end of the stage, you can play a minigame to win either a power-up or an extra life. The presentation is really good for the system it's on. Mario's sprite looks almost identical to his sprite in Mario World. It's that good. Some of the graphics of the levels themselves aren't as detailed as I wish them to be, but they get the job done. Now, what I've described so far doesn't sound that far off from your usual 2D Mario platformer, but once you finish this first level, instead of being placed in the first world, you're placed in this game's overworld, which allows you to tackle any of the 6 worlds in any order you like, while also sprinkling in some extra one-off stages as well. It sort of reminds me of the progression in a Mega Man game, where you play the Robot Master stages in any order you like before facing Dr. Wily. No wonder I like this game so much. Now, before we go into each of the worlds, I want to focus on this area right here. Now, during my first playthrough of this game, I noticed that nothing happened after reaching 100 coins. At first, I thought to myself, where's my 1-up, Nintendo? Only to wander into this little hobbit hole and discover what is basically a casino for you to use your coins to win power-ups or extra lives. I'll try it myself every now and then, but I'll usually just get a fire flower for 500 coins or something. It's a cool idea to use the coins as an actual currency, and it was later expanded upon in Mario Odyssey, whether intentional or not. I find it funny how this game uses coins better than the handheld Mario sequel that was all about coins. Okay, I can't delay it anymore. I need to discuss the worlds. This is what makes this game so good. While a lot of the worlds in Mario games seem to only follow the theming of certain terrains, Mario Land 2's worlds feature a lot more variety in theming. The closest worlds to the traditional formula are the water world and the tree world, but even then, they stand out with how each level is themed. While worlds in other Mario games only feature one or two aesthetics for a stage, every stage in this game has its own identity. Granted, there's only 2 or 3 levels per world for this game, but you're bound to remember a stage in this game more than a stage in New Super Mario Bros. U. Since there's no concrete order for the zones as they're called, I'll just go over them based on my personal worst to best. Mario Zone is strange, to say the least. It takes place within a giant Mario robot, but I don't see how that fits the theming of the levels. The first level is gear-based, and has some solid platforming with moving gears. It also features this section where you use the bunny power-up to glide over a bed of spikes, which would have fit better in the first stage, seeing as it is the game's tutorial. The second level is themed around balls, and is located on Mario's junk. It's okay, I guess, but I don't care for the trap with the pipes, and the part where you hop from one ball to another is tiresome. The third level just might be my least favorite level in the game. It takes place on Mario's tongue and involves balls moving on chains. Mario's doctor must have a ton of questions. It's just another level that focuses way too much on waiting for a moment to jump onto another platform and rinse and repeat. It's just boring. I never want to be on Mario's tongue ever again. The final level of the zone is an improvement. It's made out of Nintendo's old LEGO competitor toys, which is a nice homage, but the boss doesn't make any sense. You fight the 3 little pigs for whatever reason, and you need to defeat all of them one at a time. This is my least favorite zone. I can't tell what they were doing with the theming. Is it toys? Technology? Mechanics? I'm not sure. It would have been better if it was based on Anatomy, the original Bowser's Inside Story, if you please. It also doesn't help that it's home to some of my least favorite levels in the game. Space Zone is somewhat better. In order to access it, you need to take a secret exit in an overworld level that teleports you to the zone. I like how you access an entire zone of the game from a secret exit. Nowadays, most secret exits in Mario games just reward you by skipping half the game. The first level makes use of low gravity for moon jumping, while the second stage you elevate as long as you hold the A button while you navigate these obstacles. You then wrap up the zone by fighting Tatonga. See guys, he's still relevant. He could totally be in Smash Brothers if he really wanted. Overall, it's a harmless zone. It's a bit rough, but it's short. Let's just hope that Nintendo never makes a whole Mario game set in space. That would probably suck. Turtle Zone is this game's water world, and while that might sound generic, it does stand out. The first level plays like an ordinary underwater stage with the occasional opportunity to progress on land. The second level takes place within a sunken ship, but includes a rather annoying maze near the end, and in the final stage, you traverse the belly of a whale to fight an octopus. See, Nintendo 4 can work in a 2D Mario game. While I've never been a big fan of underwater Mario stages, they did a decent job making them interesting in this zone. Next up is Pumpkin Zone, a horror-themed world. While ghost houses are a mainstay in Mario games, this zone broadens the horror theme. The first level is a haunted mansion filled with enemies based on Western horror creatures like Goombas and Jason masks and even a vampire. The second stage takes more inspiration from Eastern creatures with enemies based on yokai, which I really enjoyed. I do love Monster Rancher after all. The third stage returns to the more traditional ghost house feel with boos constantly following you. Lastly, we end off the zone with a trip through a witch's hut to fight, you guessed it, a witch. While this isn't my favorite zone in terms of level design, it's my favorite in terms of theming. It's always fun to see Mario's take on horror. Tree Zone is great. Despite only being themed around trees, it has way more variety in level design than your usual grassland. What makes these last 2 zones stand out is the sense of cohesion from level to level. You feel like you're traversing the zone rather than just playing a series of unrelated levels with similar theming. The first Tree Zone level has Mario traversing the root of the tree while avoiding all sorts of ants. dance. In the second level, you explore the innards of the tree while sticking to the tree's sap. The zone then splits into two paths in the branches, with one level traveling through an ant colony and the other going through a beehive, and the zone then concludes at the top of the tree with a boss fight with a bird in its nest. Another thing I love about this zone is the difficulty progression. Most levels within a zone feel pretty equal in terms of quality, while with the tree zone, the later levels become much harder as you climb up the tree with more areas to fall off. Finally, my favorite zone in the game, Macro Zone, named after someone's Fur Affinity username. This zone combines the unique theming of Pumpkin Zone with the connected levels of Tree Zone. The zone sees Mario in a Honey I Shrunk the Kids situation as he travels through a giant house. In the first level, Mario travels underground in an ant tunnel where you find a bunny carrot power-up hanging above the stage. That's a pretty clever touch even if the power-up isn't appropriate for the stage. The second level begins in a lawn with potted piranha plants, then proceeds with navigating through the plumbing. Very fitting for Mario. I'm not entirely sure what the third stage is. If the zone map is accurate, it's the living room heading towards the fireplace. The final level is a bedroom covered in books with you facing a rat as the boss. Excellent choice for the boss of a giant house. There's a smart idea, good cohesion, and a lot of variety while sticking to the central theme. This zone truly is the centerpiece of what makes this game so fascinating. Once you retrieve the 6 golden coins from each zone, you can enter Mario's castle to face off with Wario. The final level delivers quite the challenge. There's no checkpoints, so you've got to complete it in one go. While it may seem difficult, it's nothing trial and error and muscle memory can't get through. Wario is fought in 3 phases, all related to the main power-ups, and he isn't much harder than the standard zone bosses. 9 bonks on Wario's head later, you're treated to the credits, thus concluding one of my favorite Mario games. Like I said, it's nowhere near perfect. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the backgrounds were very rudimentary. I don't care for how zoomed in the screen is either. While it didn't bother me all throughout the game, certain jumps in the final stage are made a lot worse by it. The music is a major downgrade compared to the tunes in the original. Instead of the upbeat tunes of Land 1, we get some really annoying music that wasn't a good fit for the hardware. Lastly, the game is super short, sporting only 30 or so levels compared to Mario World 74. Now, all of these issues I've mentioned have one common denominator: the most embarrassing tattoo! I don't know if a lot of you have caught on to this, but Super Mario Land 2 is a Game Boy game. A game for a dinky little handheld from the late 80s. Why are the graphics so simplistic? It's because it's on a monochrome handheld. Why is the screen so zoomed in? It's so the players can see everything on the tiny screen. Why does the music sound so bad? It's because of the low quality sound chip. Why is the game so short? It's because of the limited space on the cartridge. It sort of reminds me of Kid Icarus Uprising in a way. It sounds like a game I'd love on any other console, but it's ruined by the asinine controls of the 3DS. It genuinely feels like the biggest thing that's holding this game back, outside of some so-so levels, was that it was a Game Boy game, which is probably why not a lot of people talk about it. If this game was released for the Super Nintendo, people would have lauded it as a game changer, doing to 2D Mario what Odyssey did to 3D Mario. But then again, if it was made for the Super Nintendo, would it still have been the game I know with all the nuance that I love about it? Or would it have been just another Super Mario World? It feels like what makes a lot of the Game Boy lineup stand out despite its age is the freedom the teams were given with the IPs. It was the right time when these franchises were around long enough to establish their formula, but still new enough for the developers to play around with them. It allowed developers like the people at R&D1 to bring their own ideas to the table, free from all the do's and don'ts that penetrated later Mario games. And some of these ideas went on to be series staples. Now, I would love to milk the emotion of this and say, oh, we'll never see another game like this or something, but that's not the case nowadays. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Nintendo has changed a lot, for better or for worse. It once seemed unlikely that we would ever see another Mario 64 or Sunshine, but look where we are now. And it's not like Nintendo doesn't care about the Game Boy library. They remade Link's Awakening for the Switch, which heavily benefited from being on a more powerful console. Who knows, maybe someday we'll see the Super Mario Land games remade for the Switch, so they finally can receive the recognition they deserve. But knowing Nintendo, they'll remake them in the new Super Mario Bros. Style, sell them for full price, and have them only be available for 5 seconds. Just being realistic. Oh well. Even if it never comes to the Switch, I'd highly recommend Super Mario Land 2 in any way you can find it, whether it be the original cartridge, the 3DS Virtual Console, Hurry Up, or other methods. It's a hidden gem that changes the Mario formula without losing too much of the Mario spirit. It's always a shame to watch a once creative franchise fall into a series of safe hits. Of course, Mario isn't the only guilty franchise of that, so why don't you join me next season when we go not only back in time, but also back in action. You've been watching The LionDog Show. Have a great day, and don't get released on the Game Boy. My wrap-ups can't always be winners.